Nowadays, many people believe that the easiest way to catch a cheating partner is by checking their cell phone or computer. However, that's far from the truth for two simple reasons. First, skilled cheaters know exactly how to avoid leaving electronic traces. Second, most husbands and wives never suspect their spouse of infidelity, so they don't even think to look for evidence that, to them, doesn't exist. I know this all too well because I was one of those trusting, perhaps naive, husbands who truly believed my wife, Lisa, would never betray me. But reality has a way of shattering illusions. I must have been living with blinders on, oblivious to any warning signs, completely unaware that our marriage was standing on such fragile ground. My name is Bo Eklund, a 39-year-old man from Scandinavia, working in planning and administration at the leading construction company in our region. Lisa, my wife, is 37 and works in accounting at a machine manufacturing plant. We have been married for 13 years and built what I thought was a solid life together, raising our two children, a 9-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter. But everything came crashing down on a Friday, unraveling in the most unexpected way, all because of a single, seemingly insignificant detail. The events leading up to that fateful moment began the previous Saturday when I had to work overtime for a few hours to handle urgent matters at the office. To compensate, I took the entire following Friday off. Lisa, always practical, had left me with a long list of household chores to keep me occupied. But once the kids left for school, I decided to do something different. Instead of tackling her list, I thought it would be more useful to clean the house thoroughly, especially since we were hosting two families for dinner that evening. As I vacuumed the living room, my attention turned to my cocktail cabinet. Wanting to make a good impression on our guests, I decided to clean the mirrored glass doors. Inside the cabinet were 8 bottles of fine malt whiskey, each from different distilleries in Scotland, along with 6 elegant crystal whiskey glasses. But as I wiped the glass, something caught my eye. One of the glasses had been used. That stopped me in my tracks. The glass had definitely been cleaned the day before when I replaced a burnt-out light bulb inside the cabinet, and I knew for certain that I hadn't used it. Lisa and I had both left for work together that morning, and I had arrived home before her, which meant someone must have been in our house the previous day, drinking my whiskey. But who? The idea of a break-in crossed my mind, but it made no sense. Who would break into a house just to pour themselves a drink and leave without stealing anything? I checked all the doors, windows, and locks for signs of forced entry. Everything was secure. Our valuables were untouched. That left only one possibility. Lisa had been home with someone. Someone she hadn't mentioned to me. Someone I wasn't supposed to know about. A cold, unsettling realization gripped me. My mind raced through every possible explanation, but deep down, I already knew the truth. Needing more proof, I went to the bedroom first, searching for any signs that something was amiss. But everything appeared as it should. Then, on impulse, I checked the spare room. That's when the pieces started falling into place. The pillow and sheets on the bed looked slightly used, a detail I would never have noticed under normal circumstances. It had been months since Lisa's sister last stayed over, so there was no reason for the bed to be disturbed. My pulse quickened as I inspected it more closely. That's when I found them. Several strands of long, dark brown hair on the pillow, along with a small, dried stain in the center of the sheets. A sickening sensation settled in my stomach. Lisa's sister was blonde. These dark strands could only belong to Lisa. Slowly, methodically, I retrieved her hairbrush and compared a strand of her hair to the ones on the pillow. A perfect match. That was all I needed to know. Someone had been in that bed with her. Someone had been in my home, drinking my whiskey, waiting for my wife. And Lisa hadn't even bothered to change the sheets before I might notice. She must have assumed I would never check. If it hadn't been for that dirty glass, I might still be blissfully ignorant. The sheer weight of betrayal pressed down on me. I couldn't go on as if nothing had happened, hosting a cheerful dinner with friends, pretending my world hadn't just crumbled around me. I needed time to think, to process. So I canceled our plans with a brief phone call to our very surprised guests. Then I scribbled a short note and left it on the kitchen table. Lisa, due to a very serious issue, I've canceled dinner with our friends and will be away for some time. B. I offered no explanation, no mention of what I had discovered, no details about where I was going or for how long. But Lisa wasn't stupid. She would figure it out the moment she saw the clean sheet on the spare room bed. Without another word, I packed a suitcase, grabbed my laptop, locked the house, and drove away. I checked into a popular hotel on the Baltic coast, needing distance, needing solitude. At the gym and pool, I tried to clear my mind, but the weight of betrayal clung to me. Later, I had dinner and spent hours at the bar, letting the noise and the clinking of glasses drown out my thoughts. At some point, I turned my phone back on. Lisa had left 4 voice messages and sent 2 texts, all demanding that I call her immediately. Yet, not one of her messages contained an apology. Not one offered an explanation. There was no guilt, no remorse, just urgent demand for me to respond. That told me everything I needed to know. I didn't call her back. The next day passed in much the same way, filled with restless attempt to distract myself. That evening, I finally returned home. The moment I stepped inside, Lisa's voice rang through the air, sharp and accusing. "Where the hell have you been?" Her eyes locked onto mine, filled with something between frustration and panic. And then, before I could even respond, she fired another question at me. "Who is he?" I stared at her, confused. "Who?" I asked, my voice cold, distant. Her hands clenched into fists. "The damn creep you brought into this house on Thursday. He drank my whiskey and had sex." She stopped mid-sentence, realization dawning on her face as the weight of her words hung between us. I stayed calm, though every fiber of my being burned with anger and betrayal. He left a dirty glass in my whiskey cabinet. I said evenly, my voice controlled but firm. "Sperm on the sheets in our spare bedroom. Hair on the pillow. If you refuse to tell me who he is, I'll have his DNA tested one way or another." Lisa's face drained of color. She took a step back, her eyes wide with shock. "You can't just demand innocent people give you DNA samples," she argued. "They'll never agree to that." I let a slow, knowing smile creep onto my lips. "I can't," I admitted, "but I have friends who can. The innocent ones will have no problem cooperating. The guilty one, well, that's his problem." Panic flickered in her expression, and she stammered, "Oh my God, you can't let those thugs harass innocent people." I shrugged. "As I said, that's up to you. Some of my friends come from the roughest parts of town, spend half their lives behind bars. But they don't care. It's better than being unemployed. And they'd be more than happy to do me a favor." Lisa's hands trembled as she clutched her arms around herself. She knew I wasn't bluffing. She knew these men existed, and that getting them to persuade someone wouldn't take much effort. Her resolve cracked. She collapsed onto a chair, burying her face in her hands. "It was just a one-time thing," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Jerry Harrison, it was only once. I swear, it will never happen again. Please, please forgive me. Let me explain. Just don't overreact." I scoffed. "Overreact? Lisa, I'm not overreacting. I'm just going to strangle that bastard." Her head snapped up. "Bo! No!" she screamed, leaping from her chair, trying to grab my arm. But I had already turned away. I didn't care about her excuses, her tears, or desperate pleas. I walked out, got in my car, and drove straight to Jerry's house. It didn't take long, 10 minutes at most. But Lisa had been faster. She had warned him. When I arrived, it wasn't Jerry who opened the door. It was his wife, Veronica. She stood in the doorway, stunning as ever, but her expression was unreadable. "Jerry got a call and rushed out," she said. "I'm guessing you're the reason why." I met her gaze, debating for a moment, then told her everything. Her expression hardened. "If you have proof, Jerry is out of this house tomorrow. No discussion. This house is mine." "I do have proof," I said. "Lisa admitted it, and I have DNA from the stain on the sheet." Veronica exhaled sharply, a mixture of fury and resignation in her eyes. "Then that's all I need to hear." She disappeared for a moment and returned with a used handkerchief. "Hey, this is Jerry's DNA. Do whatever you need to do." She promised to keep me updated. I thanked her and left. The next morning, Monday, I went straight to the courthouse. I filled out the divorce papers, signed them, and presented them to Lisa. She took one look at them and broke down in hysterical tears. Later that day, Veronica called. Jerry admitted to everything, she told me. He's out. A friend of mine moved in with me to make sure he doesn't try anything stupid. When I relayed the news to Lisa, expecting her to run to Jerry, she surprised me. She didn't move, didn't pack a bag, didn't storm out. Instead, she just cried harder. It was a mistake, she sobbed. A one-time lapse in judgment. Please, Bo, please don't do this. Don't throw everything away. I wanted to laugh at the irony. She had thrown everything away, not me, but I didn't say that. Instead, I told her I needed time to think. I left the house and went for a long walk, trying to clear my head. That's when my phone rang again. Veronica, I need a favor, she said. Her tone was serious. It's important. I had no idea what she meant. But 2 days later, I got a call that shattered any remaining hope I had for reconciliation. Along with it came an audio file. I pressed play, and Jerry's voice filled my ears. He wasn't just confirming that he had slept with Lisa once. No, he admitted it had happened 5 or 6 times. Different places. The first time had been at their company's Christmas party. The second, at a seminar. And that time, they weren't alone. A colleague of theirs, Joel Nan, had joined in for a threesome. After that, it was just Jerry and Lisa. Over and over again, the final piece of my life crumbled. I called Veronica first, letting her know. Then I turned to Lisa. I played the recording for her. She didn't deny it. She didn't argue. She didn't try to explain. She just signed the divorce papers. There was nothing left to say. Even though I knew the divorce would be hard on our children, there was no other way forward. Love couldn't fix this. Nothing could. 6 months later, I still feel broken. My life hasn't regained balance. I took out a loan to buy Lisa's share of the house, but managing everything alone has wrecked my finances. And yet, despite everything, I feel like the biggest loser in this entire mess. Jerry, that smug bastard, did as instructed. He bought a house in a nearby town, 35 kilometers away, and now lives with a divorced woman he met online. He still works at the same company as Lisa, but they barely speak. Their affair had cost them both everything. Joel, another loser in all of this. His wife stayed with him, but only under new conditions. After I told her about his little adventure with Lisa and Jerry, she gave him a choice, leave or accept her terms. He stayed, but now she's having an affair with her boss. She sleeps over at his place at least once a week, sometimes even in Joel's own bed. Meanwhile, she's thriving. She got a promotion in a company car. And Joel? He's nothing but a joke now, sleeping in the spare room or at a cheap hotel when she brings her lover home. Veronica, on the other hand, came out ahead. The co-worker who moved in with her never left. They're engaged now. She even invited me to their wedding. Said she had the perfect date lined up for me. Not that I expect much to come from it. Lisa, though, she ended up with Tony Ho, a jealous, abusive man. I warned her about him. So did others. She didn't listen. Not until it was too late. It all exploded when she refused to hand over the money from our house sale. Tony had nearly closed a deal on a brand new BMW, and when she refused to fund it, he lost control. In a blind rage, he hit her, in front of our children, and that was the one thing I would not tolerate. Tony paid for his mistake. A broken collarbone, a fractured leg, and a damaged knee left him in a wheelchair for weeks. While he lay helpless in a hospital bed, Lisa moved out. She bought her own place in a better neighborhood, far away from him. She and I are far from friends, but at least now we can talk about the kids. She says she regrets everything. Maybe she does. Maybe not. I don't care anymore. What still haunts me, though, is this: Veronica and Joel's wife both moved on so quickly. Were they ever faithful to their husbands in the first place? A close friend of mine once suggested something that has stuck with me. He believes Jerry and Joel slept with Lisa as revenge because they suspected their own wives of cheating. Maybe he's right. Maybe not. But one thing is certain. I was the only one in this whole mess who never deserved any of it.